All right, it's June, which means we are only a couple of months away from the start of the NFL's regular season, which means it is time for Dallas Cowboys minicamp. And to talk about it here on StarTelegram.com, I am Fort Worth Star Telegram sports columnist Mac Engel, joined by college baseball aficionado and Longhorn fan, Mr. Clarence E. Hill Jr. Clarence, real quick, are your Longhorns going to win the College World Series?
University of Texas at Omaha for the 38th rendition. Okay,
that's amazing.
Years.
That's amazing.
Texas has been in the World Series half the time they've had World Series. They have 75 World Series. Texas has been there 38 times. Okay?
That's incredible. That's incredible. Now, will they beat, will they win the World Series? Can they beat Oklahoma? They got run out of the building against the Oklahoma softball team, which is one of the all-time great powers in the history of NCAA sport. That nobody talks about. Oklahoma softball was ridiculous this year. They destroyed Texas in the College World Series, Softball World Series. Can Texas beat Oklahoma in baseball? We know they can't beat them in football. Can they beat them in baseball?
I mean, we beat them in basketball. We beat them in golf. I mean, we beat them in a lot of sports.
All the sports people care about: golf, track, swimming.
We're going to beat them in baseball. We're going to beat the brakes off of them.
All right. I like that. All right, that's good. Well, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys that are in the middle of off-season minicamp. It's 3 days. And here's my favorite part. The Dallas Cowboys ended their season with losing 2 out of 3 games in January, including the playoff game against the San Francisco 49ers, where they were penalized what felt like 28 times. They were the most penalized team in the NFL. So what does Mike McCarthy do? He gives them a day off. I love that. They got a 3-day minicamp. And he gives them a day off. From what? These guys haven't done anything for like 5 months, Clarence. And he gave them a day off?
Team bonding. What
are they going to go do? Starbucks and have $8 coffee?
Team bonding. It might be a Top Golf. We don't know. It's team bonding. It's about bonding. I mean, it's the Underwear Olympics. It's the Underwear Olympics, man. They've been practicing all off season.
All right, so Clarence has them at 17-0 in 2022 because they've been practicing all offseason. One big topic you covered it in the Fort Worth Star Telegram is that Dak Prescott is healthy. Again, he's been healthy a lot at multiple times, even though he's coming off multiple surgeries because all healthy players are coming off surgeries. But he is a lean, mean, running machine. And I think I'm quoting you on this one correctly. In 2022, we might see the SEC, Dak Prescott, return to the Dallas Cowboys, which means he might be running again and designated plays for him to run, which he did quite a bit in his rookie season when he was quite good at it. Clarence, are we really going to see Mike McCarthy, who's never really had a quarterback who could run, take off and run more in 2022?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're still going to be smart about it. As Dak said, you don't want me running over people and bulldozing people like he did in SEC to a certain extent.
Yep.
But the zone read will be back in the offense. I mean, third and short, I mean, that was very effective playing near the goal line for the Cowboys. Dak in the zone read and taking off, and on short yardage plays using Dak's legs to make first downs. And again, Dak is never going to be Tom Brady as a passer. But you need to use all of Dak. And part of what makes Dak good, he's a good leader, he's a good thrower, but also he's a good runner with the football. And on times last year, there were open spaces Dak didn't run. They were being smart about it. He chose not to run and made some bad decisions to a certain extent. It's funny, ironically, we're talking about Dak running, and the season ended on a Dak run.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of extenuating circumstances, but I know what you mean. I know what you're saying.
But I think for the offense to expand, and Dak needs to threaten the defense with his legs more. And I think the Cowboys are open to doing that because Dak is healthy. Last year they were being smart. He was coming out the ankle injury. You should be smart. He's a year away from the ankle injury. What's also true is Dak says he's as lean as he's ever been. Not just pro Dak, but even college Dak. He was pudgy in college. And he ate a lot of McDonald's, ate a lot of Taco Bell. None of that's in his diet anymore. He's as lean as he's ever been. He moves as well as he's ever moved in his life. He can do it.
He can do it, but here's my question. We've seen throughout the course of the NFL, if you go back, let's go back to Fran Tarkenton, who was a great runner. Hang on. Fran Tarkenton, a great runner.
Scrambler. He ran in the backfield. He didn't run.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right. But he He could
avoided
move.
sacks.
So Fran Tarkenton could move around a lot. Roger Staubach, extremely good at it. Steve Young, really good at it. Randall Cunningham, really good at it. Michael Vick was incredible at it. We see these guys as they evolve, and my theory on it is this. Dak should do it, but there's going to have to come a point when he can't do it. I'm giving him 3 years in this window when he can still be an effective runner. He's not as good a runner as Lamar Jackson. He's not as good as runner as Kyler Murray. But I'm giving him.
He's not as fast as those guys. He's not as fast as those guys.
No, he doesn't. And there's probably some other ones in there. But I'm giving him 3 more years as a runner where he can still be effective doing both and being a legitimate threat. Or are we in an era of an NFL quarterback? Do you think those guys can go into their 30s and still be pretty good runners? I don't.
Well, I mean, it depends on the quarterback. And I think it's a case-by-case basis. But you look at the guy in Buffalo, and part of the thing that makes him good is his ability to run.
He can run. Yep.
You know, and so use what you have. You know, use it or lose it. You know, to a certain extent, you have to use it. But, you know, I think that the beauty of people who are slow is that you don't lose speed. It's the 4.3 guys who become 4.7 guys, okay?
That's right.
You know,
Kyler Murray's going to get slower. I mean, the only one.
Lamar Jackson is slower. I don't think Dak's going to get slower.
No, I don't think Dak's going to get slower. But you know, it's funny you say that. When Michael Vick got out of jail and he went to Philadelphia, he's still pretty quick.
He was still young, though. I mean, I'm talking about when they get older.
Yeah, you're talking about like mid-30 types.
Yeah. Certainly, you know, and so it's a different thing. But you know, we're not talking about running 20 times a game. We're just talking about use the weapon, use the option when it's there to help the offense, and use it as a threat to threaten the defense. And that's what we're talking about. He's still going. He threw for a franchise record 37 touchdowns last year. You know, but let's also recognize, and so we're going to move on, you know, to another subject about the weapons in the offense. Also recognize that you don't have Mark, we don't have some of the weapons, and Dak is a weapon. Dak's legs are a weapon. Let's use that weapon.
Speaking of weapons that the Cowboys have at their disposal and they plan to use more of in 2022, it's their backup running back in Tony Pollard. Now, I know over the last year or so, a lot of people were clamoring for the Cowboys to use Tony Pollard more, who was a guy coming out of Memphis, was sort of an all-purpose change of pace guy, punt returner, kick returner, pass catcher, occasional runner. And people want to see more of him because when he touched the ball, good things happened. Clarence, I'm nervous about this. I think they should take advantage of it, but there's a line. There is a line with a guy like that. I think if you do too much with him, you run the risk of getting him hurt and losing him for the chunks of time when you still need him. Do you think they're going to push him and go over that comfortable line that that they're going to try to see? Let's see how much more we can get out of this guy. And whatever happens.
Well, you know, there's nuance here. They're going to use more of Pollard, but they're not necessarily going to use less of Zeke. They're going to use Pollard in concert with Zeke. They're going to use Pollard as a slot receiver. He's also going to be a slot receiver. He's not just going to be a running back. You know, he's a guy they're going to use to help make up for the loss of Amari Cooper and the fact that Michael Gallup's going to miss one of the first 2 or 3 games of the season. He's working in dual positions. He's working at running back and receiver. So, yeah, you're going to see more of that. But also, what's also true is this. He's a free agent at the end of the season. It's like Zeke could be gone next year. What are we saving him for?
No. Well, you're saving him for December. You're saving him for
January. I'm just saying, though, but you got to use him. I mean, he hasn't been used, and he hasn't, you know, and he's a weapon. When he's on the field, you know, 5.0 yards per carry. You know, he breaks tackles. He's a big play waiting to happen. You go back to that Saints game. You go back to different games last year. The kickoff return against – he's a big play waiting to happen. You know, you got to give him an opportunity to explode on the defense.
Okay, so we both know the reason why we didn't see more of him last season and why Zeke Elliott was still the starter and seeing significant time in the fourth quarter of games when he should have been out. It's because the Cowboys had to pass, and there's no better blocker in the backfield better than Zeke. There's no better blocking running back in football better than Zeke. There may not be fullbacks in the NFL who are as good at blocking as Zeke Elliott. Is Tony Pollard good enough as a blocker that they can get away with putting Zeke on the sidelines in those situations now. I don't think he is. I think the difference is that big between Tony Pollard.
I think he is. What's also true, the offensive line needs to be better.
Sure.
And so, they made, at least one move to try to improve the offensive line. But also, what's also true is this: throw the ball to Tony out of the backfield.
Yeah, you talking about swing passes? Are you talking about swing passes into the flat? Are you talking about like something in the slot routes?
If he's back there blocking, and not when he's at the slot, then obviously throwing the ball out of the backfield. But as I said earlier, Zeke can be in the backfield blocking. Tony's going to be in the slot as a receiver.
I'd see that.
So I'm saying they're going to be on the field together, in concert together. And so you're going to be able to, again, we're not talking about lessening Zeke. We're just talking about using Tony more.
You kind of touched on it, and I want to ask you this before we move on to our next topic. When Dak Prescott came into the league, his safety valve and his go-to guy was Cole Beasley, the slot guy. And he always went, and Cole got rich off of that relationship. Amari Cooper.
Where's Cole?
Pardon?
Where's Cole? Oh, Mega Cole. Where's Cole at?
So Cole's gone. In 2022, who's Dak Prescott's safety valve? Is it Dalton Schultz?
It's Dalton Schultz. It's been Dalton Schultz the last 2 years. That's why Dalton Schultz is trying to get paid. That's why Dalton Schultz is holding out, trying to get more money. He's got $10.93 million in the franchise tag, and he wants $14 million a season. I don't know if he's a $14 million tight end, but that's what the going rate is for tight ends right now.
Is that good for the Cowboys? With Cole Beasley, we say whatever you want about Cole Beasley off the field and some of his political medical beliefs. He was a good player on it. He was really good for Dallas, and he's been still really good for Buffalo. In my mind, Dalton Schultz as a safety valve guy has been pretty good. He's not as good as Cole Beasley was. It's not even close.
No, but you got CD. Look at little Jalen Tolbert, the receiver out of South Alabama. I mean, they got new options. They got new weapons. They got to use them.
All right, let's move on to the next subject. This is an interesting one, and not necessarily football related as much as it is football business related, because no franchise in sports does sports business better than the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones, the Dallas Cowboys, are going to hold a Juneteenth celebration party at the Star in Frisco. And when I saw this press release, my first reaction was, how about it? Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys have managed to profit and monetize Juneteenth, which, I guess that's consistent with the rest of America. We've profitized religious holidays, Halloween, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, by the way, to you.
You too, sir.
Everything.
Cinco de Mayo, everything.
We're making money on everything else.
St. Patrick's Day.
That's right. So is Jerry Jones just using this as an opportunity to follow the grand American tradition of monetizing everything, including Juneteenth?
Yeah, and that's the frustration with a lot of people who are thinking that, everybody, now people have found out about Juneteenth because it's been this hidden secret, and everybody's trying to make money off. Walmart had some ice cream that got pulled off the shelves. So they make
I saw that
ice cream and whatever else. And a lot of people are frustrated with people now trying to make money off of Juneteenth. And what people don't know, let's do a quick history session.
Right, go for it.
Juneteenth is the de facto freedom day for Black Americans. I mean, it was when the slaves in Texas were told 2 years after the fact that they were free. It took them 2 years to get to Texas. Everybody else found out.
Right. Virginia, North Carolina, everybody was out.
Yeah, it was 2 years later, and it's become the fact. It's been a celebration in Texas and some southern states for years, and became a national holiday last year. And really, to be honest, the Cowboys embracing Juneteenth came out of the George Floyd situation. And people don't understand that the Cowboys 2 years ago, when the George Floyd situation came out, they made Juneteenth a company holiday, like a lot of companies. And that was one of the steps they were making. And then there's an internal employee network of Black employees that started getting together and doing some things within the organization to get together. And this is really their idea. This is not Jerry's idea. This is their idea to do a Juneteenth celebration. And they're the ones, the young employees, Black employees, the Cowboys are the ones that organized this and set this up. And the Cowboys have embraced it, and they've been part of it. And it is not just Jerry, selling Jerry margaritas and Jerry beer and Miller Lite, of course, sponsoring it. But it's going to include a lot of Black businesses going to get some notoriety. They're going to be there. They're going to be X and performances and certainly musical performance and different things. And they hope to grow this into something, a Juneteenth celebration in Frisco. But this was really the idea of Black employees of the Cowboys. And this was really one of the things that have come out of the George Floyd situation and the Cowboys starting to, recognize some things, within the organization that they want to be more intentional about.
Clarence, there's one thing I wanted to ask you because you've covered him for a long time. You've known him for a long time. And Jerry's a polarizing figure for all the obvious reasons. And he's leaned into that polarization. He has leaned into media coverage, good or bad. He just wants media coverage because in his mind, that's currency that adds value to his brand, the Dallas Cowboys. And the results are absolutely irrefutable. He's right. The one knock on Jerry that always kind of rubbed me the wrong way is Jerry's a racist. Jerry's a bigot. Jerry doesn't like Black people, things like that. And I always thought, I was like, I don't know about that one. I think that was one bridge too far. What do you, when you hear those kinds of allegations and those kinds of names calling to Ed Jerry, what do you make of that, Clarence?
Well, I mean, I think that the problem is that who he has aligned himself with and the causes he's fought. And so a lot of this has come out of, again, the flag protests.
Yep.
And when you align yourself with, Trump and get those SOBs off the field because they're fighting for freedom, and you lean onto that side more so because you care about losing money.
Absolutely.
Which is primary focus. That's how it comes across. And
that's so fair. I think that's a fair observation.
So certainly
dude, turn your phone off. Like who's calling you?
I don't even know. 2-8. We know, the Black players and people he's helped and supported throughout the years. And, certainly someone will say, well, he's only doing that because they helped him, and they paid for him. But, we know Jerry's had a good, and a lot of people that swear by Jerry what he's done for them. I mean, and there's no question about that. But the nuance is that when you align yourself against the protests. Yeah,
that's fair.
That's what comes out of that. That's what people think you care about.
No, you froze it. No, I think that's a fair observation. I think it wasn't rooted in anything other than more than concern about revenue loss. I don't know if he necessarily aligns, but politically he's talked about it before. He doesn't really want to announce those kinds of affiliations because you're going to alienate half of your fan base essentially. So why even do it? But you're right. I mean, he runs in a very wealthy crowd, and that would have included President Trump, and that was a very polarizing, divisive situation. And when you don't intentionally say anything and the way you handled it, that can be construed that way. Let's go on to our last subject, a completely different subject, but a lot more fun, to tell you the honest truth. The NBA Finals are in their final games, and the Golden State Warriors now are in a position to win yet another NBA title. This is a dynasty that, quite frankly, I don't think is getting enough credit. For some reason or another, the dynasties in the NBA here in the last 15 years, I'm talking the San Antonio Spurs and certainly now the Golden State Warriors, for whatever reason, it's this idea, well, they're not Michael Jordan's Bulls, or Magic Johnson's Lakers. I was like, okay, yeah, that's fine, but San Antonio Spurs were pretty damn good, and they need to be in that conversation, and so do the Golden State Warriors with Steph Curry. Steph Curry now is potentially going for a fourth NBA title in 8 seasons. They've been to the finals in six of the last 8 years.
Yes.
The only reason they weren't in the finals in 2 of those other years was because of major injury situations, including one to Steph himself. But you bring up a really good point. Greatest player of this generation, if you ask anybody, the first answer is LeBron James, and the second answer is LeBron James. Should it be Steph Curry? I'm of a mind you might be right. I don't think we have taken enough consideration into thinking Steph and his legacy actually is greater than LeBron's. And maybe it's because he played in Davidson and he wasn't, I don't know why. Maybe it's because he's 6'2" or 6'3" and he's a three-point shooter and he's not a physical Greek god the way LeBron is. But Clarence, I think you're right. When it comes to legacies, the fact that he's done it with one team, he's not been on 4, not that there's any shame in that. But as an individual player, I think you might be right. He redefined the game. I'm with you on this one. I think if you had to give me one or the other, legacy-wise, I think Steph's your man.
I think we need to bookmark the segment. I think it was 5 times you said you're right.
Yep.
I think that's a record. Clarence, you're right. I mean,
we can go back and edit those out.
I just want to make sure we're on the record. Clarence, you're right. No, because I've been having this conversation. I put that on Twitter. I was like, where does Steph fall? And because a lot of people, I think it has a lot to do with coming from Davidson. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that he's not imposing. He's a 6'2" guy.
No, he's not.
He looks like a gym teacher, really.
Yep.
He could be your high school basketball coach. He could be your accountant. LeBron is a 6'8" locomotive. Kevin Durant is 6'10" with a 7'2" wingspan. All those other guys that we're talking, Giannis, he's just so physically imposing. So we get impressed by that, and we should be. And so I think that sometimes with little guys, we don't get impressed because they're not that, well, I can do that. It's not that impressive. He's just shooting the ball. But the other thing about Steph, to me, Steph has changed the game. He's changed how
completely.
Now LeBron, I think, went to finals in 10 straight years or something like that. Or, and he won 4 times. He won 10 straight years and all that other stuff. I don't think he's ever getting back, so.
It's certainly not with the Lakers.
The special thing about LeBron is he came in as the chosen one, and he lived up to the hype.
And he did it.
And it's very hard to live up to the hype. He's a billionaire. He's making all this money. He's never had a scandal off the court, all of that, other than the decision, which is not a scandal. But so he's lived up to the hype. But what Steph has done, and he's beyond LeBron. He's top 10 player all time.
100%. I think you hit the nail on the head. LeBron didn't change the game. He didn't. He stood on the shoulders of what.
Now, he elevated the game, but he didn't change it. He didn't. How we play the game has not changed.
Nope. And he basically is some kind of combination of Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan. Just an unbelievable player and worth the price of admission every time he stepped out on the floor. So Steph Curry. And you're right. The NBA was leaning towards the 3-point. Basketball, not the NBA, basketball was going towards the 3-point shot. And Steph Curry just slammed on the gas to the point now where you've got 6'9", 6'10" guys camped out at the 3-point line. Now, you can take that however you want, if that's good or bad. I'm not personally crazy about 43-point shots in a game. I'd like to see a little bit more Jimmy Butler type, things like that. But it is irrefutable that what Steph Curry did, that impact on the game and the way he changed it is no different than what Larry Bird and Magic Johnson did, which is you can have big guys handling the ball and passing it and shooting it. That's what Steph did. And now you've got everybody cranking threes to the point where I often wonder now if we're going to see the three, because you've got guys taking 25-footers now. If we're going to see the
and that's a Steph thing. No one was taking the deep threes like Steph.
Not like him.
Half court and taking threes. He's the first one that started doing that, and now you have other guys doing that. And so you can extend the defense that far, but it also opens up lanes.
Oh, look at how much space there is now.
And the thing about Steph, he's not just a three-point shooter. There's some guys who just three-point. This guy has a mid-range. He can drive to the basket, so he gets you out there. He puts you in the blender. Then he goes to the basket. He has a nice mid-range game. He can finish at the hole. He's a complete basketball player in that sense.
Oh, he's great. I mean, and you froze up there for a second. His ball handling is incredible.
Yes.
I mean, I love Kyrie Irving as a ball handler. I think Kyrie Irving's insane, but I love watching him play because as a ball handler, he's just incredible. It's like watching Isaiah Thomas. And then you watch Steph Curry just handle the ball. We're like, oh, well, he's just a great shooter. No, he can get around guys and he can make guys look pretty stupid pretty quick.
Right. And again, he also has the mid-range game. That's what I'm saying. It's not just a three-point shot. He can finish at the basket. He also has a mid-range game because of the ball handling, because he brings you out there. You have to honor him deep, and then he goes by you.
I ask one quick question about this because I love talking basketball. I could do this all day. Eras are different. Games are different. The 80s Lakers and the 80s Celtics, it's a different game than the Jordan Bulls played. The officiating changed. The same way with the Spurs. As I look at the way Golden State plays now, especially with those three guys, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry. And now if you want to throw Andrew Wiggins, who looks fantastic, I'm sorry. I think that Golden State team, I think they could have beaten any one of those teams. I don't know about it. 7 games is tough. They could have beaten the Jordan Bulls. They could have beaten the Magic Lakers. They could have defeated the Larry Celtics. And I think they could have defeated the Tim Duncan Spurs.
Especially in this era.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's not just the 3-point line. But the 3-point line existed. If you go back and watch 80s basketball, guys weren't getting up everybody's grill. That wasn't exactly
right. I'm just saying this era, because they're certainly guys who are more versatile. But what's also, era of the zone defense and different things like that. Yeah, in this era, they certainly could do that. And I'm gonna tell you right now, there's a chance they go to State, if they win this year, they could go back next year because they have a young team. They have a young team. And if they go back next year, if he wins a 5th title, there's no question he owns this era. Well, if he wins a 5th title, LeBron has to go and give him his crown.
Yeah, he won't. But it'll be a good documentary or barbershop talk on his HBO special when he has them on. All right, we've gone way too long. Clarence, has been a lot of fun. Good luck to you and your Texas Longhorns. May they not lose to Oklahoma again. But hey, next week we'll talk about that Texas golf team. For all of the Dallas Cowboys
coverage, tennis. we won the Directors Cup already. Okay?
I know.
Second in men's and women's track. Don't leave none out. Tell it all. We're gonna tell it.
I'll tell you. I'm gonna tell you this one. I tell you the story. I had a conversation with. I don't think he'll mind me telling this story. Chris Del Conte is the athletic director, and he and I have been friendly on good terms for a number of years. And we're talking. I guess it was last spring. He said, "We won the Directors Cup. Nobody cares because our football team didn't win." And I thought, and he was I know he was just kind of kidding, tongue in cheek, but I was like, oh, no, he's right. They won they had this great year as an athletic department, but the football team was in the tank and nobody cared about the rest. But that's just college athletics.
Listen, you like to write columns. That's a great column. Del Conte has done a great job at Texas.
He's done a good job.
They're going to win back-to-back Directors Cup.
Yep.
But again, and you look at the total pro sports program and the hires he's made, but you're right. No one cares because the football team lost.
It's a revenue. No, it's a revenue sport deal, and ultimately,
he's made a great hire in basketball, great hire in women's basketball, great hire in track. I mean, look at the things he's done.
All of it's worked. I mean, he's
the basketball arena. But until they win in football, everybody gonna look at it with a side eye.
No, his tenure will be determined by Steve Sarkisian and whether or not he can be effective in football. That was his guy, and he went on a limb for it. All right, this has been fun. For all of your Dallas Cowboys coverage needs and all of your sports coverage needs, check us out on StarTelegram.com. Until next week, he's Clarence Hill. I'm Mac Engel. See you then.